The video had 47 million views when I finally turned my phone back on. 47 million people watching my sister's face crumble in real time, watching her perfect facade shatter like expensive china hitting concrete. The comments were still pouring in. This is why I love authentic moments. Finally, a real bride. Someone give this sister an award for keeping it real. I sat in my car outside the courthouse, divorce papers still warm in my hands, and realized that sometimes the truth doesn't set you free, it just makes you viral. Hi. I'm Emma. And 3 months ago, I destroyed my sister's wedding with a 30-second video that I never meant to share with the world. The morning of Chloe's wedding, I woke up in the hotel room we were supposed to be sharing, alone. Her side of the bed was pristine, not even a wrinkle in the Egyptian cotton sheets she'd insisted the venue provide. At 6 a.m., she was already gone, probably getting her pre-wedding glow treatment at the spa. Downstairs, everything had to be perfect for Chloe. Everything always had to be perfect. I found the first note slipped under our door while I was brushing my teeth. Emma, make sure you're in the bridal suite by 7:30. Hair and makeup starts at 8. Don't be late. See, not good morning, sister. Not can't wait to celebrate together. Just instructions, delivered in her practiced wedding planner voice. The same voice she'd used for the past 18 months, turning every conversation into a checklist. Item. The second note was waiting when I got back from grabbing coffee. Your dress needs to be steamed. The iron in your room won't work. Ask housekeeping. Also, your +1 cancelled, so we're moving you to table 12. See my +1. David. My husband of 3 years, who'd called yesterday morning to tell me he needed space to figure things out and wouldn't be coming to the wedding. David, who I'd later discover had been figuring things out with his yoga instructor for the past 6 months. But Chloe didn't know that yet. She just knew her perfectly planned seating chart needed adjusting. I crumpled the note and shoved it in my purse, right next to the envelope from my divorce attorney that I'd been carrying around for 2 weeks, too afraid to open. By 7:45, the bridal suite looked like a magazine spread. Flowers everywhere, white peonies and eucalyptus, because Chloe had decided roses were too predictable. The makeup artist had her brushes arranged like surgical instruments. The photographer was already clicking away, capturing candid moments that Chloe had choreographed down to the angle of her coffee cup. Emma. Chloe's voice cut through the soft jazz playlist she'd curated. Finally, where have you been? I held up my steamed dress. Housekeeping. Like you asked. She barely glanced at me, too busy posing with her bouquet for what had to be the 100th shot. Good. Now go get changed. Makeup needs you in 15 minutes. I watched her through the viewfinder of my phone as I absently opened the camera app. She was radiant, I'll give her that. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves, nothing like my dark, unruly curls that never seemed to cooperate. Her skin glowed with that expensive luminosity that came from a lifetime of the right skincare and the right genetics. She looked like every bride on every wedding blog she'd shown me over the past year and a half. Are you getting this? She asked the photographer, who was crouched beside the window, chasing the morning light. Everything, he assured her. You're a natural. She was. Chloe had always been a natural at being the center of attention, at making everything beautiful, at making everything about her. Even when we were kids, I was the one holding the camera while she posed for school pictures, birthday parties, family vacations. I was the supporting character in the story of her life. Emma, you're recording, she said, noticing my phone was pointed at her. Just capturing the moment, I said, hitting the stop button. You look beautiful. Her expression softened for just a second, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her all morning. Thank you. I want everything to be perfect. I nodded, because I did know. Chloe had been planning this wedding since she was 12. She had a Pinterest board with over 3,000 pins. She'd made Marcus propose in the exact location she'd picked out, the rooftop bar where they'd had their first date, at sunset, with the city skyline in the background. She'd even coached him on what to say. It will be, I told her. It already is. The makeup artist waved me over, and I spent the next hour getting transformed into the version of myself that Chloe had envisioned. Smoky eyes, nude lips, hair twisted into an elegant updo that made my neck look longer, my face more angular. In the mirror, I almost looked like I belonged in her perfect day. Better, Chloe said, appearing behind me in the mirror. Much better. Better. Not beautiful, not stunning. Better. Like I was a problem that had been solved. The photographer gathered us 4 sister shots before the ceremony. Chloe posed with practiced ease, her arm around my waist, her smile brilliant and unwavering. I tried to match her energy, but something felt off. Maybe it was the way she kept adjusting my posture, tilting my chin, moving my hands like I was a mannequin. Maybe it was the way she spoke to me in that same wedding planner voice. Even when we were supposed to be having a moment. Let's get one of you both laughing, the photographer suggested. Chloe turned to me with expectant eyes. On cue, I was supposed to provide the joy. Remember when we were kids, I started, and you made me practice being your maid of honor for your future wedding? You made me walk down the hallway carrying a bouquet of Mom's kitchen towels. Chloe's laugh was bright and genuine, and the camera caught it perfectly. For a moment, we were just sisters again. Just Emma and Chloe, sharing a memory. You were so serious about it, she said. You kept asking what your job was, and I told you your job was to make sure everyone looked at me. The words hung in the air between us. My job was to make sure everyone looked at her. Well, I said, my smile faltering just slightly. I guess some things never change. The photographer kept clicking, but Chloe's expression had shifted. Something cooler crept into her eyes. Emma, she said quietly. So the photographer couldn't hear. Today is my day. You know that, right? I nodded, because what else could I do? Good, she said, her smile returning full force. Because I need you to be perfect today. For me. Can you do that? Perfect. Like the sheets, like the flowers, like the coffee cup angle. Like everything else in Chloe's carefully constructed world. Of course, I said. But as I watched her pose for another round of solo shots, something twisted in my chest. Maybe it was the weight of the divorce papers in my purse. Maybe it was the 3 years of marriage crumbling while I'd spent every weekend listening to Chloe's wedding plans. Maybe it was the way she'd said better I was a rough draft of a person. Or maybe it was the realization that in 30 years of being her sister, I'd never once heard her ask what my job was supposed to be, outside of making sure everyone looked at her. The church bells started ringing in the distance, calling us to the ceremony. Chloe gathered her dress, her bouquet, her perfect smile. Ready, she asked, but she was already walking toward the door. I picked up my phone from the vanity, checking that the video from earlier had saved properly. 30 seconds of Chloe being radiant, being perfect, being everything she'd always been. I had no idea that in 3 hours, that 30 seconds would change everything. The ceremony was flawless, of course. Chloe glided down the aisle like she was floating, every step choreographed. Every smile timed to perfection. Marcus waited at the altar with tears in his eyes, real ones, not the manufactured emotion that seemed to follow Chloe everywhere else. He loved her. You could see it in the way he watched her approach, like she was the only person in a room full of 300 guests. I walked behind her, holding her train just right, my face arranged in what I hoped looked like sisterly pride. But all I could think about was David's voice on the phone yesterday. I can't pretend anymore, Emma. I can't pretend we're happy. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, playing the perfect supporting role in a perfect wedding, while my own marriage had been a lie for months. Dearly beloved, the pastor began, and I tried to focus on the words, on the moment, on anything except the way my phone buzzed against my leg. Another text. Probably from my lawyer, asking if I'd reviewed the papers yet. Chloe's vows were beautiful. She'd written them herself, of course, and practiced them in front of the mirror until every pause landed exactly where she wanted it. The guests sighed at all the right moments. Someone behind me sniffled. Even I felt tears prick my eyes, though I couldn't tell if they were for Chloe's happiness or my own grief. Marcus's vows were simpler, more honest. He talked about how Chloe made him want to be better, how she saw potential in everything around her. How she never settled for less than extraordinary. Never settle for less than extraordinary. The words lodged somewhere in my throat. When they kissed, the photographer captured it from 6 different angles. The videographer got the wide shot. Chloe had made sure everyone knew their positions beforehand, nothing left to chance. The reception was at the country club where Chloe had been a member since she was 16. Old money elegance with crystal chandeliers and fresh flowers on every surface. She'd spent months perfecting the seating chart, strategically placing people for maximum conversation flow and minimal drama. Table 12 was in the back corner, near the kitchen doors. The miscellaneous table, filled with distant cousins and plus ones who didn't quite fit anywhere else. Without David, I was the odd woman out among couples I barely knew. "You're Chloe's sister, right?" asked the woman next to me, whose name tag read Bethany, Marcus's college roommate's wife. "That's me," I said, attempting a smile. "She's amazing," Bethany gushed. "This whole wedding is like something out of a magazine. She must be so talented." I nodded and took a large sip of wine. "She definitely has an eye for detail." "I bet you're so proud," she continued. "Having such a successful sister." "What do you do?" The question hit like a physical blow. What did I do? I was a freelance graphic designer, working from my apartment, making decent money but nothing extraordinary. Nothing magazine-worthy. Nothing that impressed people at cocktail parties. "I'm in design," I said. Vaguely. "Oh, interior design? Did you help with the wedding?" "Not exactly." I gestured toward the elegant centerpieces, the perfectly draped lighting. "This is all Chloe." Before Bethany could ask follow-up questions, the DJ called for the bridal party to take their places for the first dance. I escaped to the bathroom, checking my phone on the way. 3 missed calls from David. A text, "Can we talk?" I know the timing is terrible, but I turned off my phone without reading the rest. The bathroom was empty except for one woman touching up her lipstick. In the mirror, I looked pale despite the professional makeup, my smile strained around the edges. "Big day," the woman said kindly. "The biggest," I agreed. When I returned to the reception, Chloe and Marcus were spinning gracefully around the dance floor. The photographer circled them like a satellite, capturing every angle. The videographer had positioned himself for the perfect overhead shot. Even their first dance had been choreographed. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, "the bride would like to say a few words." This wasn't on the original timeline. Chloe had specifically said no speeches except for the best man and maid of honor, me. I was supposed to speak after dinner, toast to their happiness, keep it short and sweet. But Chloe was already at the microphone, radiant in the spotlight. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice carrying perfectly across the room. "This day has been absolutely perfect, and it's because of all of you." The crowd murmured appreciatively. "I want to especially thank my sister Emma," she continued, and suddenly every eye in the room was on me. "She's been my rock through this whole process. Always there when I needed her, always supportive, always willing to help make my dreams come true." Heat flooded my cheeks. People at my table smiled and nodded approvingly. Someone behind me whispered, "How sweet." "Emma taught me that the most important job you can have is being there for the people you love," Chloe went on. "And she's been doing that job perfectly her whole life." My hands clenched in my lap. The most important job you can have. Being there for other people. Making their dreams come true. What about my dreams? When did anyone ask about those? "So let's raise a glass," Chloe said, lifting her champagne flute to Emma. "For always knowing her role and playing it beautifully." 300 people raised their glasses to me. 300 people toasted my ability to be a supporting character in someone else's story. I stood and smiled and raised my own glass, because that's what you do. That's the role. That's the job. But something cracked inside my chest, small and sharp. After the toast, I escaped to the terrace for air. The country club overlooked the lake, and the sunset painted everything gold and pink, exactly the lighting Chloe had hoped for her outdoor photos. I pulled out my phone, meaning to finally read David's message, but instead found myself in my photo gallery. There was the video from this morning, the 30 seconds of Chloe being perfect and radiant. Without thinking, I opened Instagram and started typing a caption. "My sister on her wedding day. She's always been the beautiful one, the perfect one, the one who knows exactly what she wants and how to get it. Today she married her soulmate in a ceremony that looked like a fairy tale. Meanwhile, I'm getting divorced and sitting alone at table 12. But hey, at least I know my role, right? Hashtag sister love, hashtag wedding day, hashtag perfect bride." My finger hovered over the share button. It was petty. It was bitter. It was everything I usually kept buried. Emma? I spun around. Chloe stood in the doorway, backlit by the reception lights, her dress flowing around her like a cloud. What are you doing out here? I need you for photos with the grandparents. Coming, I said, quickly closing Instagram without posting. Just getting some air. Good. And Emma? She stepped closer, her voice dropping. Thank you for what you said in your expression during my toast. You looked genuinely happy for me. That means everything. She squeezed my hand and headed back inside, leaving me alone with the sunset and my phone. I looked down at the screen. The video was still queued up, the caption still written, my finger still hovering over share. Later, I would realize that my phone had been acting up all day. The screen was cracked from when I dropped it last week. Sometimes it registered touches that weren't there. Later, I would wonder if some part of me had wanted to press that button. But in the moment, all I knew was that suddenly my phone buzzed with a notification. Your post has been shared. And then another, Sarah liked your post. And another, Mike commented on your post. I stared at the screen in horror. The video was live. The caption was public. And as I watched, the view count started climbing. 3 views. 15. 47. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. By the time I made it back inside, my phone had exploded. Notifications cascaded down the screen faster than I could read them. The view count hit 500, then 1,000. Comments poured in from strangers. Finally, some real talk about weddings. This sister is done with being the supporting character. Why is this so relatable? I tried to delete the post, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the app, but the damage was spreading like wildfire. People were sharing it to their stories, screenshotting the caption, tagging their friends. Someone had already screen recorded the video and reposted it with laughing emojis. Emma. Chloe's voice cut through the reception chatter like ice. She was standing by the gift table, her phone in her hand, her perfect composure finally cracking. We need to talk. Now. She didn't wait for me to respond, just turned and walked toward the bridal suite with sharp, deliberate steps. I followed, my stomach churning, past the dancing guests who had no idea that the fairy tale was imploding in real time. The bridal suite felt different now, smaller, suffocating. Chloe's wedding dress took up half the room, a white monument to perfection. She closed the door and turned to face me, her phone screen glowing between us. 43,000 views, she said, her voice eerily calm. In 20 minutes. 43,000 people have now seen you call me selfish and shallow on my wedding day. Chloe, I didn't mean, she's always been the perfect one, she read from my caption, her voice getting sharper with each word. Meanwhile, I'm getting divorced and sitting alone at table 12, but hey, at least I know my role, right? What the hell is wrong with you? The words hung in the air between us. 3 decades of careful politeness, of playing the supporting role, of swallowing my voice, all of it shattered. You want to know what's wrong with me? I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I've spent 30 years being your backup dancer, Chloe. 30 years making sure everyone looks at you while I fade into the background. That's not, let me finish. For the first time in my life, I cut her off. You gave a toast tonight about how my most important job is being there for other people. Making their dreams come true. When was the last time you asked about my dreams? Her mouth opened, then closed. No answer. My husband left me 2 weeks ago, I continued, the words tumbling out now that the dam had broken. He's been cheating on me for 6 months. I've been carrying divorce papers in my purse for days, too afraid to even open them. And you know what I've been doing instead? Helping you pick out napkin rings, steaming your dress, sitting at table 12 because my life falling apart was inconvenient for your seating chart. Chloe's face was white except for 2 spots of high color on her cheeks. You never told me, when would I have told you? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Between dress fittings and flower arrangements? During one of our phone calls where you spent an hour debating ivory versus cream invitations? You haven't asked me how I'm doing once in the past 18 months. Not once. That's not fair, she said, but her voice was smaller now. You could have what? Interrupted the Chloe show? I gestured around the room, at the remnants of her perfect day. This is what you do, Chloe. You create these beautiful, perfect moments where you're the star. And everyone else is just set dressing. She was crying now, mascara starting to smudge despite the waterproof promises. I'm not selfish. I'm not. I work hard for everything I have. I never said you were selfish. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the post that was still climbing toward 100,000 views. Read it again. I said you were perfect. I said you know what you want and how to get it. I said you married your soulmate in a fairy tale ceremony. She squinted at the screen, reading more carefully this time. The problem isn't that you're selfish, Chloe. The problem is that you're so focused on being perfect, you forgot that other people have feelings too, including me. But you seemed fine, she whispered. You were helping, you were smiling, because that's my role. That's what I do. I hold the camera while you pose for the pictures. I sat down heavily on the vanity chair, suddenly exhausted. Do you know that in 30 years, you've never once asked me to be in a photo with you that wasn't about you? It was always your birthday, your graduation, your engagement, your wedding. I'm always the photographer, never the subject. My phone buzzed. The post had hit 200,000 views. Someone had shared it to TikTok. A wedding blog had already written an article. Sister's viral post exposes the dark side of Pinterest perfect weddings. Oh God, Chloe breathed, looking at her own phone. It's everywhere. People are calling me a bridezilla. They're saying I'm narcissistic. They're dissecting everything, my dress, my venue, my face in the video. For a moment, I felt a stab of guilt. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd just wanted someone to see me, to acknowledge that I existed outside of her shadow. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I didn't mean for it to go viral. My phone, it's been glitchy, and I never meant to actually post it. But you wrote it, she said, looking up at me with red-rimmed eyes. You meant every word. I nodded. Yeah. I did. We sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the reception filtering through the door. The DJ was playing Don't Stop Believin', and I could hear people singing along, completely oblivious to the meltdown happening 20 feet away. You're getting divorced, Chloe said finally. And I had no idea. No. I'm a terrible sister. Her voice broke on the last word. You're not terrible, I said, and I meant it. You're just focused. You see the big picture, the end goal, the perfect outcome. You don't always see the people in the frame with you. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing foundation. I don't know how to fix this. You can't, I said simply. It's out there now. But maybe that's not entirely a bad thing. How can you say that? My wedding is ruined. People are going to remember this instead of the perfect performance you put on? I gestured toward the door. Your guests are still out there dancing. Marcus is still your husband. The marriage is what matters, not the wedding. She stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Besides, I added, scrolling through the comments on my phone, look at what people are actually saying. I found the thread I was looking for and read aloud, this is why I'm eloping. Finally, someone said what we're all thinking about wedding culture. The sister seems really sweet, hope she's okay. Anyone else think the bride could learn something from this? They're not all attacking you, Chloe. A lot of them are talking about how wedding culture has gotten out of control. How we've forgotten that marriages matter more than weddings. How I forgot about my sister, she finished quietly. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Hi Emma, this is a producer from Good Morning America. We'd love to talk to you about your viral post. Then another, Emma, this is BuzzFeed. Would you be interested in writing about your experience? And another, TMZ. Here. Can we get a comment? Jesus, I muttered, showing Chloe the messages. This is insane. What are you going to do? Nothing, I said, turning off my phone. This isn't about going on TV or becoming famous. This was just me having a breakdown at your wedding. There was a knock at the door. Chloe? Marcus's voice, concerned. Everything okay? People are asking where you are. Chloe looked at me, her makeup ruined, her perfect day in shambles. What do I tell them? The truth, I said. That you needed a moment with your sister. She stood up, smoothing her dress, trying to pull herself back together. At the mirror, she attempted to fix her makeup, but the damage was too extensive. I look awful, she said. You look human, I corrected. For the first time all day, you look human. She met my eyes in the mirror. I'm sorry, Emma. For not seeing you. For not asking. For making you feel invisible. I'm sorry too. For posting that. For ruining your day. You didn't ruin it, she said slowly, like she was testing the words. You made it real. There was another knock. Chloe? The photographer wants to do the cake cutting soon. She looked at me. Will you still be my maid of honor? For the rest of the night? Do you want me to be? I want you to be my sister, she said. Not my employee. Not my supporting cast. My sister. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. I can do that. Even if people keep staring at us? Even if this follows us around? Especially then. She opened the door to find Marcus waiting in the hallway, worry written across his face. Behind him, I could see wedding guests subtly watching, phones out, probably hoping to catch another viral moment. Everything all right? He asked. Chloe took his hand and looked back at me. She said, everything's exactly the way it should be. We walked back into the reception together, bride, groom, and the sisterhood. Accidentally told the truth to 47 million strangers. The DJ was playing something slow and romantic. People definitely stared. A few phones definitely recorded us. But for the first time in 30 years, I wasn't trying to stay in the background. I wasn't making sure everyone looked at Chloe. I was just being Emma. And that, it turned out, was enough. 6 months later, the video has been viewed over 200 million times across all platforms. I've turned down every interview request, every book deal, every opportunity to monetize my moment of truth. Chloe and Marcus are happy. Really happy, not just Instagram happy. And me? I'm still getting divorced, still figuring out who I am when I'm not playing supporting roles in other people's stories. But I'm doing it in the spotlight now, whether I wanted it or not. Turns out when you finally speak up, the world listens. Sometimes that's terrifying. Sometimes it's exactly what you need.